Indie Home Bros.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Work stop by Burke. Bounces into Cody, puts it up, scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Welcome aboard, everybody, on this Thursday. Dustin Schutte joining me, as always, from the Saturday Tradition. Hope your day is going well. Man, the state of Indiana's got some great, listen to that opening clip, some great play-by-play guys, man. I mean, of course, you got the king, Don Fisher, but Matt Taylor, Chris Denari, pros, man. Boyle on the mic for the Pacers. Very, very fortunate. Very fortunate. Had Slick Leonard for all those years. I mean, who morphed into that. It didn't matter what you put him in. It's crazy. It's just like he became the great at, okay, what do you want me to be a carnival barker? I'll be the carnival barker, and I'll be the best damn carnival barker there ever was. But yeah, it didn't matter. It was great. But yeah, very fortunate to have that over that length of time. What sucks is, one day that's going to have to end. And man, I don't get to listen to Don Fisher or that. I really wish Indiana would pipe in the sound of the game call to press row. I really do. I think it because you can't. They've got us stuck up in halfway to heaven. So I'm like, give us the game call, the live game call from Fish. That would be great.
Yeah,
just a thought.
I completely agree with you, and I think that we've talked about this on this show multiple times too. That Indiana has, even if you want to go up to West Lafayette, and Larry Clisby recently passed away, but he did his craft for 30 years. Tim Newton, the play-by-play guy for the Purdue football team. I mean, just a plethora of guys, and these aren't guys. This is the thing about Indiana and the broadcasters from the top of this, from the northern border to the state all the way to the southern and east to west, is those guys stick around. I mean, they're doing this job 20, 30, 40 years. So Indiana is very fortunate. A lot of people fall in love with Indiana. I remember, you hear Mark Boyle talk about his job with Indiana, and he thought that this was going to be, basically his step to do something else. He thought that the Pacers job, he was going to be here just a couple years and then decide to move on. But he loves the Pacers. He loves the organization, and he stuck around. So that says something about the organizations that we have here. And we have so many great guys, Chris Denari and Matt Taylor, who join our show later today. Those two guys are going to be around for a long time too, because they're great at their jobs. So yeah, it's and having lived in multiple states, Georgia and Orlando and Florida and even Ohio for a brief stint, I can tell you that the quality is not the same in other states. There might be another organization that's got a really good play-by-play guy or an analyst, but you don't get it in every sport like you do in Indiana with every school and every professional team. It's just really awesome, and everybody should be fortunate.
Well, and very fortunate, because a big part of that is the two professional sports teams, the Pacers, the Colts, two of the best run. The Colts are a great organization. The Pacers is a great organization. They've just got to commit to winning a championship, I think. But other than that, they have put a solid product out since the advent of time, like I talked about. So, and that just furthers the love of sports. And Indianapolis is just a gigantic sports town. We got the Indianapolis 500 coming up. I mean, you've got the NCAA housed here. There's so many things that are housed here. I can't even remember the Pan Am games, I think. Just all kinds of things.
And this year, I don't think it's been confirmed from the Big Ten yet, but the Columbus Dispatch reported earlier this week that the Big Ten media days, football media days, are moving from Chicago to Indianapolis, at least for this year. So after you just got done hosting the entire NCAA tournament, the Big Ten tournament, now you get to host media days at Lucas Oil Stadium. So just another feather in the cap for a city that's known for sports. And, it's going to become a hub. I wouldn't be surprised if that became a permanent location for media days because it's so centrally located, easy to walk around. That's going to be a lot of fun in late July.
It's the permanent location for the football championship.
Yep.
It is the most centrally located. Why not make it? It should. Mm-hmm. It should be the permanent home for the basketball finals. Of course, that's easy for me to say. 60-something miles away, but of course. Donald Sang says hello. Dwayne Blackford says hello. Forrest says hello. He's up in Bloomington from Georgia. A lot of guys on the YouTube channel watching. You can do that too. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Just go there and sign up. It's the sports has been great and it continues. And it's such a hub for AAU sports. It's nuts in the summertime. Now you talk about AAU basketball that carries through. And that does not even include all of the other things that are going on that I don't even know about that I know are immense. Soccer, baseball, because I remember when I was traveling in the summer trying to get a hotel room, forget it. It's either a soccer team or a baseball team all around Indianapolis all summer long. It is just a sports town. And basketball, the ABA, the Pacers, got it going. Of course, basketball being in this state's blood, but the Colts, that really was an infusion of while the ABA Pacers and the NBA Pacers have given people thrills, just not quite enough. And the Colts won a Super Bowl. They played in the Super Bowl. There's a difference, and they got the ring, man, and so that makes a huge difference. Titles make a difference.
It does make a huge difference. And the thing I would also point to is that both organizations have had that one namesake player that you just look up, and when you hear the organization, that's the guy you think of. You hear the Indiana Pacers, you think Reggie Miller. When you hear Indianapolis Colts, you think Peyton Manning, even though he spent a few years with the Denver Broncos. Those are the two names. Like, you had guys. Peyton was on the back end of his career, and obviously injuries played into the decision to let him go and have him finish out his career in Denver. But he'll forever be tied with the Indianapolis Colts winning a Super Bowl. And Reggie Miller obviously got the team so close. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals. It seemed like every stinking year, and they had an opportunity in 2000 to win an NBA championship, but ran into a legendary Lakers team with Shaq and Kobe. So I think that helps. This isn't a city or these aren't franchises where players just go and play and then they leave a few years. That happens a little bit in the NBA, but you've had some big name players for both organizations fulfill their entire career there. And I think that speaks to not only how the organizations are run, but also the city of Indianapolis. You're not going to live someplace you don't like. And so to have some of those players in both sports, that's really a credit. Again, as we talked about, this is like the Indianapolis love fest right here, but that's a credit to the city and to both the ownership and management of both organizations.
Absolutely. A playoff of Indianapolis, as a matter of fact, the Little 500 happened yesterday without fans, without students, without all of the fanfare. I think it was, from what I heard, a very exciting race. Jet Black was the winner in front of the Cutters. I'll try to pull up some more information about that, but they waited till, all the students were gone, but oh well, they had it. So it was there and it happened. And I wonder what's like in that race. Because the fans are kind of close in the Little 500 and there's no way you don't see them and hear them. Wonder what's like those last 5 laps in that silence. I wasn't there, but I wonder if that was what it was like.
I'm sure it's just like anything else not maybe to quite the same extreme, but I'm sure it's just like anything else with football. You come down and you're in the final 2 minutes of a game and you have to come up with a game-winning drive or a game-winning stop, or basketball, the final 30 seconds, and you're in a close game. I'm sure it's so different. You're so used to having that fan support or that energy to kind of help you get across the finish line, no matter what the sport is. And so to have it completely wiped away, I'm sure that was quite a change, and just a different atmosphere. But the good news is 2022, we should be back, and that should be up and running at full steam, just like everything else.
Well, yeah, we keep saying that. We should be, hopefully. That's hopefully going to be the case. Well, we're talking about something that happened in Monroe County, so that's going to be a little behind. I'm not even meaning to poke fun anymore. It's just a fact. It's just going to be behind, and there's no way they're going to have an event. They're out on the way out of school. It's like, absolutely, let's get out. And I get it. Let's get out. And I'm not at all suggesting that they should have had fans. I think you could have had family, space them out. I mean, put a mask on, but whatever. It is what it is. But there it was. So it happened, and it's in the record books. We got to take a break. Nope, we got 2 minutes away to take a break. Also coming up, talk about the little 500. But when we come back, I want to talk about computer. Let's see, Tim Tebow mentioned computerized umpires.
And the MLB?
Yeah. I don't have a problem with the home plate calls because I don't have a problem with it. You're still going to have an umpire out there. They're going to have somebody to complain to. So I think that they'll still be out there. It would certainly supposedly completely make the strike zone what it is, and not guy from guy, guy to guy.
I feel like that's part of the fun. I mean, everybody wants to take the human element out of this, but I feel like that's part of the fun, at least in my opinion. I mean, sports are imperfect. You're never going to have perfect, even if you do this computerized, I'm sure. And I understand the point of it because I'm not a huge baseball guy, but the games I've watched, the strike zone has been so inconsistent. And you can hear, a lot of the analysts and play-by-play guys talk about that. But at the same time, like, I'm a guy who I hate instant replay in every sport. I don't care what it is. I hate it. And I don't care how big the moment is. I want that human element. That's what makes sports exciting. That's what argue and bicker and all that. I love the human element of, even if it's bad officiating, I love it. So I'm against replay in any form.
The only bad thing about replay is half the time you're sitting there screaming something is obvious, one way or the other, and it takes them 50. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, dude? And but yeah, we got to take a break. We can talk about that more when we come back, and plenty. Chris Denari will join us later. Matt Taylor will join us. See what else we can get scared up. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat. We'll be back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new...
These jack wagons chose today to mow the lawn, didn't they?
I know. I thought I heard something. I was like, it sounds like it might be a lawnmower, but I wasn't too sure.
The nice thing is the lawn is small. So it shouldn't. Hopefully that's the only bit we get.
It's not. It wasn't too intrusive. I just heard it briefly in the background.
I never heard it. I'm eating bacon into the microphone.
In the world.
Hey, at least it's break time.
Hey, we can talk about if we get low as Indiana over under was set at 8 by Bet Online.
What over under?
Football
wins
at 8 wins.
Ooh.
Dustin, I love your Twitter account. I just recently started.
That's the over-under? Wow.
The key there, John, is to not take it seriously because I like to build myself up, but it's all a joke.
Oh, trust me. I could already tell that just by looking at it. I know you don't take yourself seriously.
The incomparable Matt Taylor joins us, everyone.
With a handful of bacon in his mouth.
I am.
Are you eating on the show?
We're on a break, Matt. Don't worry.
Is this amateur hour? What are we doing?
I have the greatest meal that this breakfast that I've concocted is the greatest meal in the history of man.
What is it? You can't just
chicken dip
fish.
from
it's fish from Allen's Creek.
Chicken dip from Yogi's that I heat up with their buffalo fries, and I make scrambled eggs with that and bacon. It's incredible.
The bacon.
The bacon making people. What is new with Matt Taylor?
It's working, man. When you think it's going to stop, it doesn't.
Bingo.
When you think you're going to stop, you don't, or you can't. Although today should be my final, last big day of the summer. Knock on wood. Knock on wood, buddy.
I laugh at him as he says that. Oh, I'm just kidding. But I remember, was it last week? That's what I talked about for 3 days. Monday, yeah. I was like, oh. But yes, it's feels good, man.
Locations and something for everyone. Sam's Restaurant in Fishers has homemade coffee cakes and much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Well, I hope you're having a good Thursday. We are, because Dustin Schutte's with me and Matt Taylor is joined from the Colts. Matthew, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good, guys. What's new?
Not a lot. Just it's another Thursday. Looking down the news board, the little 500 happened yesterday.
Who won?
There's that Jet Black, and I don't know who that is. I'm going to be honest. I have not looked it up. They beat the Cutters, who were second.
There you go. My cycling prowess basically extends to my 3-year-old's Huffy, going around the street. So there you go. That's the extent of my knowledge on Little Five expertise.
Man, I remember having when you were a kid setting up the ramps.
Yep.
How big can you get those ramps?
Oh yeah.
It's basically you build it. You basically build it until you nearly killed yourself, and that's when you're like, okay, there's the Mendoza line, and you go back. You went a little bit too far.
We got to get the training wheels off. That's the goal for the summer. So we got to get the 4-year-old off the training wheels, and see if we can scrape up some knees and have a couple of falls, build up some character, build up some adversity. That's the goal, is to maybe have a hospital ER visit or two. Maybe a broken arm or a fractured femur, something this summer, just to tell a story later down the road.
There has to be a cast. There has to be a cast.
Right of childhood. It's
like there should be a song. There has to be a cast. There must be a cat. Yeah, it's every kid. I did not have a. Well, that's not true. I was 16. I made it to 16 without a cast, I guess I should say, which was crazy. What's going on in your world, the Colts? The summertime, like you said, should be the last as things get put away. A lot of talk about these voluntary workouts, and whether guys want to do this, don't want to do this, are going to do this. That's an important part of how a team comes in, I think, in the fall, as far as their mindset, team mindset wise. But where are the Colts on that?
Well, the Colts have come in. It's actually today is the final day of their offseason workout program. They're going to be off tomorrow before Memorial Day weekend, and then have 8 weeks to themselves to get ready for training camp. Guys are probably going to report late July, somewhere around the 27th or 28th. And as we saw about a month ago, teams around the NFL through the NFLPA put out messages saying, with the backdrop of COVID-19 still being present, we're not going to show up and do in-person workouts. We don't think it's necessary. We don't think we're not comfortable with continuing to, put ourselves at risk with the virus, so to speak, for things that aren't necessary for us, or things that aren't as crucial, let's put it that way, as training camp and getting ready for the regular season, like we saw last August and September. Since then, several teams around the NFL have done what the Colts have done, and that's put together a plan with their coaching staff and front office and say, okay, we'll give you a couple weeks, or, in the Colts case, 2 weeks. And it's not going to be, as physical as we've seen the offseason workout program be in the past for teams. With OTAs and minicamp, guys traditionally are flying around. It's not full pads, it's not full contact, but it's basically like a full practice as far as intensity and speed and things like that. That has not been the case with the Colts. It's been more mental, a lot of walkthrough, as they say. It's full go up until the snap of the ball. So it's a lot of stuff that they can build upon with playbook installation, a lot of meetings, and just a lot of the mental stuff that you need this time of year heading into training camp. And I thought it was so big for the Colts to at least get some time on the field together as a team to build up some rapport, to build up some camaraderie, especially with a new quarterback coming in with Carson Wentz. And he actually talked earlier this week saying that, I've got this relationship with Frank Reich dating back to our days with the Philadelphia Eagles, but a lot has changed with this offense. It's not as seamless as I thought it might be. There's a lot of new terminology and a lot of new things I have to study up and bone up on. So he had 5 years in one system there in Philadelphia. A lot of things, he admitted that there's a lot of things that are foreign to him with the Colts now. So that's why I think this 2-week period has really been beneficial for the Colts, and especially on offense with Carson Wentz as he learns the playbook, learns his new weapons, and his new weapons learn him both on and off the field as a guy and a quarterback.
Matt, we talked a few weeks ago about, having this. What COVID-19 kind of did was it allowed the NFL to experiment a little bit with these limited practices and things of that nature. And we saw, you mentioned the lowered number of concussions and serious injuries, season-ending injuries. I have to think that a lot of players aren't maybe wanting to go full speed at this time in the season, because I'm looking at it, if I'm a player, as a career longevity standpoint. I mean, when you're playing in a collision sport, you might be able to get an extra 2, 3, 4 seasons if you don't take those extra hits and you're not going full speed right now. So it's been interesting to me to kind of follow along and just see how, we're talking about this game always evolving and always improving player safety. And I think that this has been one really easy way to add a little career longevity for these players and limit the risk of season-ending injuries and concussions. And that's been the goal of the NFL for the past decade or so. Right.
No, what you just said is the biggest feather in the player's cap, or their biggest leverage piece in all of this, because you're right. I mean, depending on, I think every player and I think every team is different. And that's why it's such a tricky situation with the NFLPA and fighting for one thing where they represent all of the players, and all of the players are in different spots. I mean, a guy like Tom Brady is certainly in a different spot than Sam Ellinger, who's a 6th round pick by the Colts coming out of Texas and is a rookie. I mean, when the draft was over, a lot of the NFLPA Zoom calls and the player reps were saying, hey, even though you're a first-year player, we would still love for you to kind of buy in with the idea of skipping voluntary workouts. And then you had the player's agent saying, don't do that. That's crazy. You're trying to make a team. You're trying to carve out a niche. You're trying to, establish yourself in the NFL. Why would you do that? That's career suicide. So it is such a tricky balance. But in the case of the Colts, unlike maybe some other teams, the Colts are a unique squad in that they've got a head coach who's basically their offensive coordinator, or the mastermind of the offense. He's back for a 4th straight year. Their defensive coordinator is back for a 4th straight year, and their special teams coordinator is back for a 4th consecutive season. That is incredibly rare in the NFL. And if you look at the core of the Colts, it's comprised of a lot of 3- and 4-year guys that have been here since 2018, when the coaching regime changed under Frank Reich. So there's a lot of stability, and a lot of players on this roster know their scheme, whether it's offense or defense, like the back of their hand. And they don't necessarily need to be here for all of this off the field or off season stuff. And so I think the Colts are in a different situation than a team like the Jets per se, right? With a new head coach and a new quarterback and all of that. So every team, every guy is different, but certainly it is a tricky balance. with the offseason workout program and the fact that the players used COVID-19. Let's be honest, they used it as leverage to start this conversation and to get it going to the degree that it is, because they've been feeling this way for a long, long time. I mean, as I said last week, I think on the show, every time there's a new CBA, a collective bargaining agreement, this is one of the biggest sticking points is what is the offseason workout program going to be? How intense does it need to be? How long do we have to be there? What's voluntary? What's mandatory? Because the NFL is the only sport, the only professional sport that does basically full intense off-season practices. So that's sort of the point that the players have been making for a long, long time. And then obviously last year they proved they can have a really good, successful, entertaining season with no preseason games and no work in the spring.
How different is the offense expected to look with Carson Wentz as opposed to Phillip Rivers? They're different type of quarterbacks.
Sure. I think it will look – I think you're going to see a lot of subtle differences, nothing major, no overhaul. But Frank Reich actually talked about that yesterday, saying we have to tailor our offense to the strength of our quarterback. And so from that standpoint, it's crazy. I mean, you look at the Colts over the last 4 years, they've had 4 different starting quarterbacks. And, give credit to Frank Reich for being able to adapt and – you could argue that he has taken all of those quarterbacks that he's dealt in that time and taken them to a higher level than they were the year before he got his hands on them. So that's obviously the goal here with Carson Wentz. But I think you're going to see a lot more RPOs. You're going to see a lot more mobility. Nothing crazy, but you're going to see him try to extend some plays if that opportunity arises. Phillip Rivers was such a dissect the defense pre-snap, make some checks in the line of scrimmage, get the ball out quick. I mean, get everybody involved. It was a very democratic offense, if you will, where at least 7 guys last year caught a pass in every single game. So he took what the defense gave him, and I think Carson Wentz will do that as well. But I think you're going to see a little bit more mobility out of this offense with Carson Wentz. And I also think the deep shots come back. Last year, the Colts got their chunk plays with Phillip Rivers, but it was a lot of, yards after catch or, crossing patterns and things like that. I think the true deep shots down the field with guys like T.Y. Hilton and Paris Campbell coming back, I think those come back into this offense because Carson Wentz has a very, very strong arm and throws a very accurate deep ball. And I think just for comparison's sake, I think the offense looks a lot aesthetically like it did in 2018 with a healthy Andrew Luck.
Switching gears on you, talk about Indiana football a little bit. Another big-time transfer yesterday. I haven't talked to Dustin about this yet either, but they pick up a wide receiver or was that the day before? But from Texas A&M. I remember trying to compile a list. I was like, are you kidding me? Because I started going down through the list of guys that have transferred into Indiana here of late, and Stanford, Florida State, USC, Ole Miss, Michigan, Texas A&M, Auburn. Who am I missing? Somebody? I mean, that is absolutely unheard of. That would have taken a decade to come up with that list, if not longer.
No,
if you go back.
I think definitely longer. I mean, I don't know if that's ever happened, with one off season in terms of so many marquee programs, leaking players and Indiana picking them up. Indiana, of all places, picking up all of that talent. So I'll ask you, because you guys are more dialed into it on a daily basis than I am. How is this going to work? Where are all these guys going to play? Or are they going to play immediately and be starters?
Yeah, that's a great question because I try to look at this objectively. And one of the things that was interesting this year with so many seniors coming back to Indiana because of that extra year of eligibility, Indiana class was it wasn't up to par as to where it had been in previous seasons under Tom Allen. The interesting thing, though, is they have a smaller recruiting class. So you bring in some of these guys who have experience. I mean, I think that what you're going to start to see from Indiana now, and I don't know whether these guys are going to be immediate impact players, whether they'll sit for a season or two and then get their opportunity in 2022. But I think what you're starting to see at Indiana, and Tom Allen understands this very well, is you're starting to see the type of talented depth you need to compete at a Big Ten level, to consistently get to bowl games, to compete for Big Ten East titles, and maybe eventually even a Big Ten championship. I don't think Indiana's quite there yet, but when you have guys, if you have guys from Auburn, USC, former 4-star and 5-star guys on your 2 deep, that's a really good thing, because in previous years, it's been, Indiana has had some starters that are comparable, but where you start to see the separation is in the second half when you go up against Ohio State and they 5-star guys, on their 3 deep. So that's what's going to be interesting to me. I think some of these guys can step in, and I'm blanking on the name of the wide receiver. I know who you're talking about, Jim, the Texas A&M wide receiver who came in, but he's a guy that he'll fill a position need immediately. Some of these other guys, I don't know if they'll play right away, but they add that depth that Indiana has lacked for so long and what they need to build a consistent program.
Let me tell you guys a quick story. Then I got a jet, unfortunately, but I think you guys will enjoy this because I'm working back in the Colts complex this week, and so I've been around the players and just kind of shooting the ball with them. And I had 2 different conversations with 2 Ohio State guys, former players, Paris Campbell, wide receiver, and former defensive end at Ohio State, Tyquan Lewis. And I just wanted to see what they would say. And so off the record, I asked them, well, off the record, we didn't, I can share this with you. It's not anything earth shattering, but at any rate, I asked them, hey, two proud Ohio State guys, right? They bleed scarlet and gray. I said, going forward next year, what you know about the Big Ten, what is the biggest game for Ohio State in the Big Ten East? And they both said Indiana. They didn't say Michigan. They didn't say Penn State. They said Indiana is our most toughest game, our most difficult game, because they always play us well. They always give us fits for 45, 50 minutes. And then to your point, Dustin, like talent, 5-star, 4-star recruits, their 2 deep is obviously, deeper, more talented than Indiana's historically. But they didn't say Michigan. They didn't say Penn State, Michigan State. They all said Indiana. And so that's huge when, the former players are starting to recognize, hey, back in the day, they gave us fits and they're for real. And they're a lot better than they were 3 or 4 years ago when we were in college. So pretty cool how far they've come.
That is an amazing testament to hear that. And it's going to be an amazing thing to see on the field. It will be fun to see how that all transpires. I talked about that because the games are going to be different this year, Matt. There will be fans in the stands. So when you go to Michigan, it's going to be a lot more difficult for teams like Indiana. Last year you had an advantage of going, whether it was Penn State, to these big stadium places that did not have the fans there. And now you add that back to a marginal team, it makes a difference. So it's going to make the margin of error a little less, a little more for Indiana next season. But that's part of the deal. Everybody's got it, right?
Without question. And I think, as I said a couple of weeks ago, fans coming back and, these big time places, you got to play at Penn State, you got to play at Michigan. I think Michigan State may or may not be a home game, but you get what I'm saying. Like, not that I'm taking anything away from Indiana's success last year, because it was phenomenal and I celebrated just like every other fan, but having those places with that energy and that noise makes a big time difference. And so I'm really eager to see if Indiana can back up success on the road at some marquee venues in the Big Ten.
Absolutely, Matthew. Get out of here and go take care of your day. We can't thank you enough. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, guys. Be well. I always appreciate it.
Thank you. Matt Taylor, the great one from the Indianapolis Colts, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. I wanted to throw that. Let's see. Where was that? Jennifer said that. Updated that yesterday, the IU indoor general public events will be 100% masked, vaccinated or not. Hopefully this will not extend to basketball season, but I'm afraid it will, she said. We'll talk about that and more when we come back. It's Chris Denari is going to join us later as well.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're looking for a relaxing night with a family, meeting.
I re-recorded those ins and outs this morning.
I can tell.
I did it in a different setting than I did before, and I thought initially that it sounded better, but now hearing them play, I'm like, this is not better.
It sounds like you're trying to be subtle or something.
Well, it's because anyway, that doesn't.
I'm just laughing. No, I'm just laughing. I'm just.
But the reason I re-recorded is because I had to take Cheryl Sizemore off of it anyway. I'll re-record it again, obviously, because those are not good. But you know,
did you re-record the Cheryl Sizemore thing? I need to get her to cut a commercial, man.
So I don't have a commercial for her. I just have the ins and outs.
Well, no, there's a.
The segment.
There's a 30-second commercial, right?
No, you talked about doing one, but we never did one.
For Remax Realty?
Mm-hmm. Unless you never gave it to. I don't think it's in. I can double check, but I don't think we have one.
Dude, Dylan, come up here and sell advertising.
Dylan? Dustin?
So who's
Dustin?
Dylan.
Somebody doesn't show up.
Oh, Dylan Sin.
You do have a lot of D's. Used to be Dylan, Dustin, DePuric.
Denari.
There you go, Denari. Dude, I'm such a bad salesman. I did that once back in the day.
Man.
I don't need.
I can't help it. That bacon just can't sit there.
By the way, the name you all were forgetting was Cameron Buckley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not. Yeah. I think that was
a
couple days ago, but I wouldn't have remembered that at all.
I've got too much stuff pulled up on mine.
That's where I wish I just had a talkback button, Jim. I could just be like Cameron Buckley, so you could just hear it and not have to think about it. All right, I'm going to bring us back.
Whether you're looking for a new or a used vehicle, Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington's got you covered. They're Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month? Or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
How's everybody doing on this Thursday? I think it's kind of mucky outside a little bit. I'm looking out. I see no sun. You know, the great thing is, though, all along the back of where I live are evergreen trees. I don't think the cicadas like the evergreen trees.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Because I'm like, this is blowing my mind. I hear nothing at most of the time, because I am surrounded by trees out where I am. I was driving yesterday someplace with the window down and the radio up and past an area that was so loud with them that I heard them at that point driving at 70 miles an hour. But I'm like, this is great. I was waiting for this onslaught. Maybe it's still coming. Hopefully not. But
I was going to say they were predicting mid to late May. And then I don't know how long, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. I was going to ask if they were.
I don't know. Did he see a shadow?
Yeah. Good question. I have no idea. I'm not cicada.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on the cicadas. Alan, you're on the road with us, headed to Clifty Falls. There you go, headed down to Madison, southern part of the state. Have a good time out there, guys. Hope that works up well. So hope everyone. Yeah, that'd be fun. What's everybody doing for the weekend? I have forgotten that this is the Memorial Day weekend. I forgot to talk to Matt Daggone about Chris Vinatieri officially retiring, but it was not like this was a secret. I mean, he said, he'd love to play one more time or one more year, but, the writing's on the wall. Yeah, the writing was on the wall the year before last. They just kind of trudged through it. Last year was painful.
Well, how old was he? I mean, I don't
106. 106.
He did look like that. I mean, I don't know what they put in the water up in New England. I know he's been with the Colts for a long time, but he and Tom Brady, I mean, going into their mid-40s.
TB12, baby.
He was close to 50, wasn't he? Like legitimately close to 50, I think.
That's when he came out of college.
It was it's like Julio Franco. Is that who I'm thinking of with the Atlanta Braves? Wanted to play till he was 50. I don't know if he did it or he came close.
In
Atlanta.
There was a pitcher. He was fat. Seemed like how old did the Negroes? They got up there. Those guys were in their 40s, I thought.
It might have been.
I don't know. But yeah, it's injuries, man. And football lasting that long is absolutely crazy. Tom Brady is, maybe there's something to the TB12, but he's never really taken hardly a serious hit that I recall.
Well, he got injured that one series that kept him out. I mean, but I
mean, for all the years he's played, the percentage-wise, it's nuts. It's like, wow.
Right. No, and I mean, he's been so good for so long. It's just like you expect at some point to see that dip off. Like you saw it in Peyton Manning's final season. He was not the reason the Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl. You could tell he was at the end of his career. Tom Brady he doesn't look like 30-year-old Tom Brady, but he looks like a guy that could play another 2-3 years. And I think he has a 4-year deal with the Bucs. So you're talking about him playing until he's 46, 47, somewhere in that neighborhood. My gosh. I mean, it's incredible what he's been able to do with his workout plan, with his diet, all that. Like, I think it's something weird. Like, he doesn't even eat strawberries because they're bad for his health. Like that, for the average human, a strawberry would be good for anybody else. But Tom Brady's body is in such peak physical condition. Maybe it's not strawberries, but it's some sort of fruit that he never eats because his body just it's not this superfood that he's supposed to be eating, I guess.
Phil Mickelson, he's on this fasting thing. He does, right?
Yes.
Is it before or after tournaments? Coffee and fasting.
Coffee and fasting. Have you ever tried that coffee?
No.
It's actually really good coffee. Now you're paying out the wazoo for it, but I'm a huge Phil fan, so I had to try it. I didn't try the fasting part. I just drank the coffee in the morning. It's actually pretty good coffee. Should be for
you. Just get you some Kopi Luwak.
Well, I think you can.
You ever seen the movie? What was the movie that Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman, where they have the list of things they want to do? They're crossing off.
Bucket list.
Yes. Jack Nicholson is drinking that coffee all the time. He doesn't know what it really is.
Yep.
Which is Kopi Luwak, but very expensive coffee. But yeah, there you go. I have not tried that, but there are all kinds of different methods that these athletes, the oxygen chambers. I'm trying to think of all the different. There's just so many. There's stuff that I don't even know about that they're using now.
Well, and even before Phil, you had Tiger Woods bounce back. I mean, he's not as old as Phil, but he bounced back after not winning a major for so long, and he bounces back in 2019 or 18 or 19, whatever year it was, and wins the Masters. So there's no longer age is. I'm not going to say it's not a factor anymore, but guys are finding a way to have longer careers, especially. I mean, golf, it's a little bit more understandable because it's not like your body's taking hits. But and even Adam Vinatieri with a kicker, you would think he would. I mean, he did lose a lot of his leg strength, but he was still able to put it up every once in a while. And Tom Brady is probably the most remarkable considering what sport he's playing, what position he's playing, and to have won 7 Super Bowls and play in 3 more. I mean, and no signs of slowing down. Just incredible what some of these guys are doing. This is really an incredible era. And it's going to be interesting to see if more players are able to do this as technology continues to improve and as careers last longer and longer.
Yeah, because you didn't have old athletes back in the day. There were a couple, but it just didn't happen. And it's not happening a lot today because they don't have to either, though. They make enough money They don't have to do that. And generally, their body still just won't hold out. I mean, you look at Larry Bird, you look at the guys you go through, just the backs go, the knees go. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what sport. Man, the body is not built to take this kind of pounding nonstop.
Right.
So there's that. I'm trying to get the Jordan Bohannon fight video was released. I was trying to get that sent over to John. Let's see if we can get that loaded up for you. We'll have that up here in a second, but
Yeah.
boom, sent that to you. I didn't see it yet. I've not even watched it yet. I'm sure it's painful for that young man. Plus, you get your butt kicked. It's splashed all over, national media. Now we got the video that's going to show you getting your butt kicked. Whether it's right or wrong, it's just.
Yeah. It's very tough for student athletes because everything's being recorded. So one bad night, one bad move or whatever, it's going to be all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everything else. So it's tough for him. I haven't seen the video either. I don't know. From what I heard a couple days ago when it was reported, was that it was a blindside attack. He didn't expect it coming, and he suffered a serious head injury, I think. So hopefully he's okay. I haven't even heard an update, but I didn't even know there was a video of it. But I shouldn't be surprised nowadays. There's a video.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't hear it, but I can. I wish I could turn over. I wish I could. John, could you hear that?
I can't hear it.
Okay, yeah, good, because it was loud. But John, if you have that, you can pull that up here in a second. Something else we were talking about a little bit earlier, Brian Bowen. Remember him? God, it's like Louisville cannot stay out of the news. It's like I don't have a thing for Louisville, but it's another thing in the news again. Brian Bowen is the guy that all the trouble started with for Louisville with Adidas. He was the recruit that came out of nowhere. This 5-star recruit that Rick Pitino said, "Man, we didn't have to spend a dime recruiting this guy." No, you didn't. Adidas did. But they didn't. It's like there's so much mess. There was a lawsuit, and then I think this was just yesterday. The judge dismisses the suit. A federal judge dismissed a lawsuit by former Louisville basketball recruit Brian Bowen II against Adidas and others, alleging that they derailed his promising career through racketeering activity by bribing his father, Brian Bowen Sr., to persuade him to play for the Cardinals. Of course, it does not mention anything about his father walking around with both hands that he's got and two others that he probably had stuck onto his back somewhere, stuck out with palms out, asking for money everywhere, shopping his son to everybody.
That's the thing that bothers me about these kind of lawsuits and these kind of allegations. It's like you don't have to take the money. You don't have to go. I mean, I understand that people grow up in different situations and we're all from all different walks of life, but you can't accept the money and then point the finger and say, yeah, they derailed my career because they made me go to Louisville. No, they didn't. You didn't have to take the money. You didn't have to go to Louisville. You didn't have to be in this mess. So I don't understand where, I mean, a lot of the times, a lot of these lawyers see dollar signs and they say that they have a lawsuit on their hands, but they really don't, in my opinion. I mean, I didn't think that the McDonald's thing with the hot coffee, which is what I always go back to, wasn't really a thing, but
crazy
to me that these people take the money, pick the school, and then point the finger at somebody else. Like, you knew what you were getting into. Don't play dumb.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to wish a quick happy birthday to Thomas Allen Jr. today. It looks like it is. Tom Allen wished him a birthday. Amount of grit you have developed and work ethic you have displayed makes him thankful to be your coach and blessed to be your dad. So there's the great send out on Twitter from Tom Allen to his son Thomas Jr. I don't know what his future is playing. He's got the eligibility. Coming back from the injury, we'll see what he's going to do. Obviously, that's a guy is going to be coaching one day. There's no way, zero chance zero chance this dude is not coaching.
He's probably going to be on the Indiana staff too.
And he'll be a good one. Normally you'd look at that as being kind of, I wouldn't see that this one is, you would know that it was warranted and welcomed.
I would say so. I mean, you've seen it up at Iowa with Kirk and Brian Ferentz. That's the most notable. I'm sure more of those. They've been doing it for a while now. But, I mean, this stuff happens. If you're in coaching and you get that opportunity, I mean, he nobody's going to know the program better than him. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, or maybe he wants to take a few years and do something else, or go to another program and learn under another. That might be beneficial too. Tom Allen might say, hey, go learn something from somebody else and then come bring it back to Indiana in a few years. So it's always interesting to see how that coaching thing sort of works out. But I agree with you. I think he'll be a guy on the sidelines at some point in his life.
But the thing about coaching is you generally have to go out and make your bones in a lot of different places and learn from a lot of different people. And that entails, you look at some guys' resumes, man, they're 10 schools deep. And so that's, if you just work 2 years at a place, that's 20 years of your life working in these places. I remember asking Todd Leary that question. Why did you end up not getting into coaching? And he was like, look at Mike Lewis. Mike Lewis, you would consider a success, right? But he is still an assistant coach looking for a head coaching job now.
Yeah.
How long's he been doing that? Which I'm not saying it's a bad gig. He's at UCLA, and it's awesome, and he's going to get a great job somewhere. The only reason he's not at Indiana is because he was not going to take the route of an assistant. But he'll get that job. But it's a grind.
Yeah.
And then you become the head coach, and you think the grind is easier? Oh, no. Now it's the grind and the responsibility.
Yep.
So,
now you're making the big bucks, and you're the one that has to answer all the questions and meet with reporters and make the tough decisions and be the head of recruiting and fundraising and all that stuff. So I would never want to be a head coach in any facet of the college, because it's I know professional. You're not just coaching the game, but it's even at the NBA, NFL level, you're not out recruiting 24/7. You're not having to go to these donor meetings. You're not having to talk with boosters and continually be on the clock. I mean, being a college coach in any sport is such a grind. And as you mentioned, you're talking about years of your life, sometimes decades of your life, before you get your first major break to become a head coach.
You have to get a break on top of that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Dumb luck. Sometimes it's dumb luck. It's who you know. That's why relationships are so important in that business, like they are in everything in life. But it is
not to mention, if you don't have a lot of success, that could be the end of your professional head coaching career. I mean, you 3 or 4 bad years at one school, you can't get them on the right track. You might be done. That might be the last time you're a head coach. Whatever it's football or basketball or whatever the case might, you may be assistant for the rest of your life. So some people enjoy that because there's not as much responsibility. Some people make a lifetime out of being an assistant coach and love it. But it's you have to sacrifice quite a bit.
I can't remember if I mentioned the Indiana football game with Western Kentucky, scheduled for September 25th. Will be carried on CBS Sports Network at 8 p.m. That's in Bowling Green, Kentucky, so we'll be going there. The video for Jordan Bohannon and his fight that took place, we had that. John, let that baby roll.
Please pop off. Please. Jesus Christ. Come on. Would make my day. Would make my day.
Yes. Tables out. Oh my God.
I didn't see him hit him. Did you?
No, I don't think you can see the actual.
Well, I think we just were not looking at things, but then he's laying on the ground there, and It's just stupid stuff, man. It's just, man, that kind of stuff is just nuts. And you hear about it all the time, but that gets dangerous. You talk about hitting people in the head and it's just, you think we're getting past that, but it still happens. I guess we're only thinking we're past it because we've been locked down through COVID. And all this stuff's going to be coming back becoming more prevalent as people get out. Being locked in for so long, hopefully it doesn't create. That's another reason why, they're just not opening the floodgates. In addition to just turning people loose, but there's all kinds of things. But we got a lot more coming up, Chris Denari, to talk to. Whatever else we can fill up, we don't have to wear the mask anymore, so there's that. We just pretend to do it. It just sits here doing nothing. But we got plenty more. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
Do you want me to keep playing the ins and outs, even though they sound like garbage right now?
They're fine.
All right.
Another break, another piece of bacon.
I tell you what, if my bacon's not hot, I don't like eating it. I'd rather it be hot.
That's because you don't have my bacon.
What do you got? What brand do you have?
It's not about the brand, but it has to be thick cut.
Oh, okay.
And you're better off getting those smaller strips.
So smaller and thicker.
This is just maybe a Kroger deal.
Yeah, as long as you you're in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had good bacon in a while.
Milk probably makes the best that I've tasted.
Oh, so the reason that video was like that is because it was a Twitter video. That's why I wouldn't take up the full screen, Jim.
Okay.
I could tell you were freaking out.
I'm just trying to get it up there so we can sit. Devontae Green just said in a recent interview that Archie Miller would get up more to play Tom Izzo and NMSU versus playing Purdue.
Well, no kidding. I could have told you that by the 0-8 or whatever record it was. 0-7.
0-7 for him, 0-9 for Indiana. Hello, Mr. Chris Denari.
Hello, guys.
Well, it's appropriate weather for the rain shower or for the shower, wedding shower, whatever kind of shower. But actually, hopefully those showers will be gone Saturday, won't it?
No, well, the wedding shower's done. It was last Saturday, so got it all done.
So now, besides the non-stop, ever-ending honeydew list, what lies ahead for you? You look. Can I say? I'm gonna save this one, but I was gonna say you look refreshed and relaxed. And I'm not kidding. I was like, he looks like he just got out of the shower and just all.
I've got
relax.
I'm doing the 500. I'm in turn 4 on Sunday for the radio network.
Oh wow.
Chris, could you turn your mic up by any chance, if you're able to?
Me? Let's see.
Yeah, you're a little quiet.
Or just, can you turn him up? Can you turn him up?
I'm on my.
No, because you're all on the same feed. I can look and see if I can turn him up individually, but usually I can't.
I can turn mine down, and you can turn this up.
All right, here we go.
You have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
I just did it manually.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Hello.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back. Chris Denari joins us now. And just when you think Superman's summer is ready to be started, it is not. There is yet more to be done. The Pacers are through, unfortunately, but there's more yet to be had. I thought that you had the wedding shower coming up, but that's done. You could get that put away. And I was wondering why when you first came on. I'm like, man, he looks refreshed and relaxed and just like a new man.
I feel like a new man. I'll be in turn 4 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Sunday as a part of the IMS Radio Network. It'll be my 20th year in turn 4 for the 500. So looking forward to that. We will rehearse and do things tomorrow during Carburation Day. And I've done a lot of my prep. I have not been out to the track this year. So my first day will be tomorrow. So I'll see the 33 cars on the track, and then it will be up to me to call it as I see them on Sunday.
Dude, turn 4. Wow. How do you get, besides the obvious, being one of the best at what you do, but that has to be the job that everybody that's done that is clamoring for. I mean, obviously, that's the last turn of the last lap when that happens, but and I can't wait to go back to a couple of years ago now that I know this, but yeah, wow. Turn 4 at the Indy 500, how much adrenaline does that just course through your body?
Oh, there's no question, Jim. There's a lot of responsibility, and I don't take it lightly when you think about all the history, especially in the races that I've done. I go back to 2011 when J.R. Hildebrand, the rookie, had the lead out of turn 4 in the final lap, and he crashed. And, you know, I had to make that call. Marco Andretti and Sam Hornish Jr. were going toe-to-toe. It sure looked like Marco was going to win. He was 19 years old. And my comment out of turn 4 was, can a teenager win in Indy? And he didn't, because Hornish beat him at the line. So there's a lot that is on you. I've always told people you don't have to be perfect, because you might make a mistake on lap 10 or 15 or 40 or 60, but you better not make a mistake on lap 198 or 199 or 200. So that's where the adrenaline really kicks in. For me, it's a lot different than the guys that I work with, because these are the only races that I do all year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'll do the Brickyard in August. So I don't have the training. I call the races before this that they've done in St. Pete, you know, it's almost like their spring training. It's their training camp. I don't have that. So I've got to use tomorrow to watch cars, you know, get things down, and then be ready to go on Sunday.
Do you have a spotter?
Yes. I have a spotter that helps you, especially when the cars are coming through turn 4. I'm at the exit of turn 4. I'm on the outside of the track at the exit. So I really see them when they're exiting 3 into the short chute. And as you're following the leaders through, a lot of times things happen in the back of the field that you aren't aware of, because you're paying attention to the leaders. So that's where the spotter really helps. And usually it's an elbow. You know, it's an elbow to get your attention to look back to the north.
That's the action, and it's so fast. It's you know, I think of things like hockey that are harder for people to call, but motorsports, because it is happening so fast and there's so much information with names and numbers. Whereas in a basketball game, you know, they're coming down the floor, but there's 5 and 5, and 5 of those, you know, like the back of your hand. It's just the action, and to be able to, the drivers' names, the cars, the car names, the sponsors, all of that stuff. But the speed at which that stuff happens is mind-boggling. And wow, when you listen to all of these, whether it's MRN or Indianapolis, it's so polished and amazing that the fluidity of which you guys are able to do that. And it's always boggled my mind, but nothing boggles my mind like the way both your networks are able to go from turn 1 to turn 2, how each guy picks it up. When you have a play-by-play and a color guy, that's understandable. They worked it. Man, you got 4 guys that it's basically like running a relay race, where one guy cannot see the other guy and the next guy can't see the other guy, but they are seamlessly handing this baton off every time. And man, that just blows my mind.
Well, the one thing that's an advantage for us is we've all done this together for a long time. Jake Query's in turn 3. He's handed off to me, numerous times. I've said about this event, it's a lot like TV on radio because there's so many people involved. We have pit producers. There is a turn producer that can talk to us during the course of the race, so that Mark Janes, he's got many other things he's got to worry about. But I think the one thing that I've always said about this is you have to be a really good listener in this. It's not just what you say, but you've got to listen to the people in front of you because, Jim, as you said, you can't see the majority of the track. Once they leave me in turn 4, I can see them a little bit down the front straightaway, but then I'm not going to see another car until they exit turn 3. So I really have to rely on the guys in front of me, and I've got to listen to the order that the cars are in, because when they pass me, it may be different than what is going to come in front of me in the next lap. And so I've got to be aware of that. The one thing that I do is I have a chart that it's got their name and it's all in colors, because I need to make sure that I resonate with what the car color is and what the driver is, because you can, with the way these Indy cars are set up, you can't really see the number. I mean, the number is so small. So it's all about car color and listening to the guy in front of you in what order that those cars are in, so that who's in 4th. And so if that car is making a pass on 3rd, you know who that is because you've listened to who's in front of you.
Dustin?
I was going to say, I'm going to shift from racers to pacers because we didn't really get much of the pacers.
No, we didn't get much of that, no.
But, one of the things that we had this conversation multiple times. There was a divide on social media, it seemed, between Pacers fans. Lose to the Wizards, increase your chance of getting a lottery pick, or win, get in, and then maybe you have to deal with the same team. You don't have a chance in the lottery. The thing that I was reassured by and have been reassured by is the Pacers' history, this organization's history of drafting players in the teens. I mean, it dates back to guys like Reggie Miller. You've had Danny Granger, Paul George. I think even in 2016, Karis LeVert, I think they initially drafted, and then he was traded. And Miles Turner, who could be, I don't want to say he's a franchise player, but he's been a really good defensive player for them. Do you get the sense that to me, I'm reassured because the Pacers have built through the draft in the teens. And so even if the ping pong balls don't come up their way this year, I have a lot of confidence in this organization that they're going to make the right moves, because we saw a team fight at the end of the season. We didn't see a team fully healthy for, I don't think, since the first 5 games of the season. So I have a lot of confidence in what this Pacers organization can do in the draft, in a teen spot, and then moving forward to the 2021-22 season. I truly believe they're very, very close to being a competitive team in the East.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dustin. I mean, I look at the playoff teams. I look at somebody like the Celtics. And the Celtics struggled this year, 36-36, and down 0-2 in the series with Brooklyn. I think they've got 3 really good players, 2 dynamic all-stars in Tatum and Brown, and then Kemba Walker. But the rest of their roster, I'm just not that in love with. I think the Pacers, top to bottom, have a much better roster than a team like Boston. And so I think you're right. A lot of people look at when you're picking in the 20s and they've gotten Aaron Holiday and Goga Bitadze, who, Goga was a rotation player. Aaron's been a rotation player, but that's a little bit of a crapshoot when you're into the 20s. When you're into the teens, especially like this year, it's a pretty deep draft. So I feel pretty confident that you're going to get a player that is going to not necessarily immediately help you, but should help you down the road. And you're right. When you look at the Pacers' history of those picks in the teens, the Miles Turners, the Paul Georges, the Danny Grangers, those have been very impactful players as far as the organization is concerned. I'm one of those that I really like this group, and I like the way the roster's been constructed. You just haven't been able to see them. Now, some people would say, well, do you have players that are constantly injured and you're not going to get to see them? Well, I think Miles Turner's toe injury, as he said, does not often happen in basketball. That is an injury that happens in other sports. You know, I think T.J. Warren is going to be fine once he gets past this last rehab. So I think you will tweak it. I think it's hard to say that you'd have 13 players back like you had this year, but I think why go out and just trade people to trade people? I've never been a fan of that, just to change your roster. If you're going to change your roster, you have to have a reason and you have to know exactly what you want to do. And I'm just not sure that just trading players is going to net you anything better than you have. So I'm glad that I just have to follow it and I can spend my summer getting that information and hitting the little white golf ball, that I don't have to worry about what's going to happen. Sure, I'm interested, but my day to day, there are a lot of media out there that they've got to chase these stories. I just have to let it play out. And then whoever is here next year, that's who I'll deal with.
And one of the things I go back to the early 2010s and I think about that injury that Danny Granger had. And I'm not going to make this comparison here, but that allowed Paul George to kind of emerge as the next leader and the star of this team, for that time period. I feel like to some degree that has happened with Edmund Sumner. He's not going to be a guy like Paul George, but we saw an explosiveness from him that we had never seen, at least I had never seen before. He was knocking down threes. He became a really good player. I feel like he's a guy who could, work into that starting rotation and be a really good player, and whether or not you want to trade him or not. But I feel like seeing this, it's a good and bad, right? You could have been probably a top 4 team in the East, top 5 or 6, if you're fully healthy. But at the same time, those injuries paved the way. And now maybe you have a deeper, better roster for next season because these guys got this experience this year with T.J. Warren out, with Karis LeVert out, with Miles Turner out. That's just my opinion, but I was really impressed to see his progress. I think you even compared his explosiveness to a guy like John Wall when he's fully healthy. So I see a lot of positives from the depth that this team has right now.
Well, I agree with you, and I think throw another guy in O'Shea Brissett, who you signed late in the year. If you don't have those injuries, then these guys don't get an opportunity to play and show what they have. And you're right, Dustin. It just makes you incredibly deeper. Let's take a step back and think that if you're able to do this and you're healthy next year and you bring a lineup back, you're starting 5 of Brogdon, LeVert, T.J. Warren, Sabonis, and Turner. That's a really good starting lineup. I know there are some people that are concerned about playing the 2 bigs together. I think you've seen some people say, and Kevin Pritchard said it even the other day, is you can still start them and play them together, but you can also stagger their minutes. Then let's say you have the opportunity to bring Doug McDermott back, which I highly recommend, T.J. McConnell as well, Justin Holiday, Edmund Sumner, O'Shea Brissett. There's a pretty good group of backup players that got a lot of experience this year. So I think you're right. We'll just have to see how it plays out and then what they are able to do in the draft. But I don't think it's as dire as a lot of people make it out to be. There are a lot of teams that have a bad year or a disappointing year that bounce back the next year. And there are teams that have really good years that take a step back the next year with the same talent. So, I'm bullish on this group. I know some people probably aren't. I'm a little bit more positive when it comes to this group. And I'd like to see this group have a chance to see what they could do when healthy.
And I think your point, I think that Miles Turner, this isn't back in the days when you have Rick Smits, Antonio Davis, and Dale Davis just kind of clogging up the lane. Miles Turner is so athletic that I think it creates another dynamic in terms defensively with playing 2 bigs. I mean, it might hinder your offense a little bit, but both those guys are capable of shooting the 3 too. So I know that there's been some talk and people want to see some change, but I think if you bring, as you mentioned, that starting lineup, Doug McDermott, he improved his game from just shooting a 3-point shot to attacking. I mean, he had some big time dunks this season, and that's a guy that was not in his repertoire before this. So I agree with you. it's hard to bring back an entire group, but this team it reminds me of the year before the Pacers got really good. They got handled as the number 8 seed by the Chicago Bulls, but they got to the playoffs. They made a change here and there, and then they were competitive with Miami for 3 straight seasons in the Eastern Finals. I think that with a healthy TJ Warren, they have the ability to do that. Maybe you add in another piece in the draft or through a trade, but I don't think you have to do much at all.
Well, I agree. And, the one thing that I go back to the beginning of the year, I knew how good TJ Warren was. We saw what he did last year. We saw what he did in the bubble. He was the Pacers' leading returning scorer. I think a lot of us didn't quite understand the impact that he had on both ends, not just on the offensive end, but the defensive end. So he was definitely somebody, Dustin, that the Pacers missed far more than anybody thought. And, his rehab, it's moving along. He should be ready to go once training camp starts in October. And I think he will be a huge asset for the Pacers moving forward.
Well, Chris, I guess you get to after Sunday, is it the relaxation time come in?
Yeah, well, I did play 9 holes yesterday at Prairie View, and I've got a 2:30 tee time today at the Fort here in Indianapolis. So,
scheduled.
Yes, I am going to be able to get some relaxation, and at some point, Jim, we will tee it up together.
Looking forward to it, man. Looking forward, more importantly, to Sunday and the call of the race. I'll be looking for those cars coming out of turn 4. Has there been a decision on the blackout yet? I'm assuming not.
No, I haven't seen anything in regards to that. And so, right now, if you want to follow the race, and I know a lot of people, it's tradition to go to the race, but the tradition is also to hang out, grill out, go to the pool, and have the Indianapolis Motor Speedway radio network on your radio or on your phone or your iPad or whatever. So we'll make sure we entertain people on Sunday for the greatest spectacle in racing.
Sounds like a perfect combination, man. I cannot thank you enough, Chris. Look forward to talking about it next week.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Dustin.
The great Chris Denari joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with more after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're looking for a relaxed...
Gosh, I've cringed every time I've heard that today. I can't deal with it.
What is it?
I said I've cringed every time I've heard that today. I can't deal with it.
What is it?
The new ins and outs that I did this earlier.
Oh.
Specifically the one going out into break. Which clip do you want to play, Jim? I have one of your question, and I have one of Rick Bose's question, and one of Trevor's. Rick is the one that about the pack line defense.
Yes.
Reference.
We're doing that first.
Okay, now that is about the whole of that one is like 3 minutes long. So if you want to end it early, just wave and I'll stop it.
Okay. Then we'll play mine and the rest of them tomorrow.
Okay. So, and then you said you wanted me to add Jerome Hunter, the comment about Jerome Hunter?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll add that for tomorrow then.
How long is mine?
About 2 minutes, something like that.
Now, were you able to combine those two golf ones?
Yeah, that's all one.
Okay, because my second question had nothing to do with golf.
I know. Well, I just made it your whole thing. It's not just the golf questions; it's the golf and then the regular question.
But to see, there was two. Someone else asked about golf. I wanted to put those together.
Oh, I need to go back and look at that then for tomorrow just to make sure I've got everything. But you want the Rick Bozich one today?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Did you see it, Dustin? Oh, you're gonna get a good chuckle.
I agree.
It's great because Rick Bozich was on with us yesterday. On top of that, bacon ice cream.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, ew. I've had beet ice cream.
Oh man, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, I just tasted it.
Ugh.
Is it a Bloomington delicacy?
No, nothing. I had beet ice cream in Louisville.
Oh, really?
at some restaurant out by the
Wonder if it
Costco.
was, wonder if it was Comfy Cow.
Merkley Bacon.
All right, I'm bringing this
Ask
back.
Michael Lewis.
Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington's got you covered. They're Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month? Or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Hope your Thursday is going well as we're about to wrap things up here. Hitting up a few things. Tim noted that Denzel Moore is still going to visit Indiana after decommitting. I said Denzel Washington popped up, but that surprised me a little bit. But he's also a 2023 kid, Dustin.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be committing 2 years out. I don't think you should be allowed to commit until you're a senior. For one thing, it avoids all this crap. But Rick Bozich said something yesterday that is the best idea I've heard yet in regards to the transfer portal. He said the one thing with the transfer portal he would like to see is that freshmen cannot do it. And I'm like, bingo. Yeah. What the hell does an 18-year-old kid know about Jack? They get mad. They don't like what, blah, blah, blah. That great idea. Rick was on with us yesterday. But I really like that idea. Especially kids they can't get in trouble for tampering. They can text each other, hey man, just come over here and play. I mean, that did not used to happen because there was not a viable pipeline. And now that it is, that tampering is going on all the time in essence.
Well,
and there's no way to stop it.
ESPN just wrote a story, multiple Power 5 coaches, assistant, I don't know if there was any head coaches mentioned in there. Most of them stayed anonymous, was that tampering's running wild because you're right. All the coach has to do is tell one of his players, hey, we need a wide receiver. Text you know this guy, you went to high school with him, hit it, break out the phone, text him, hey, we got a spot open for you. It's going to be yours. If you perform well enough, you're not playing at whatever, IU, come on down to South Carolina. We got a spot for you. There's no stopping it. So that one, even though I think kids should be able to play immediately, this is such a snowball effect. And you've already seen thousands of players enter the transfer portal, and it's going to continue to be the wild, wild west.
We'll see Denzel Moore, an outside linebacker, class of 2023 from Sewanee, Georgia, previously committed to Indiana and decommitted a few days ago. His previous top interest, it's Arizona. I can't read them all. It's the Razorbacks. I can't tell that logo. There's Auburn. There's Georgia, Florida State, 16 others. So got a few. And he's got 2 years to go, man. So, but no biggie on that. Speaking of Rick Bozich, as I mentioned, he was on with us yesterday. After that, we had the opportunity to talk with Mike Woodson, Indiana's new basketball coach. I wanted to play Rick's question to make sure you heard that one. We'll get some rest of this stuff tomorrow, but this is almost just comical. Rick Bozich was asking about what fans can expect to see defensively from Indiana, from his team. Here's
Rick. Yeah, hi, Mike. You've talked quite a bit about, what you like offensively, maybe 4 out and 1 in. You mentioned hard-ass defense. Indiana's played this pack line over the last 4 years to mixed results. Can you explain when an Indiana team of yours is playing well, what kind of defense will we be seeing? What will we be watching?
First of all, I've heard this pack line. What is that?
We don't know. No, it was meant to pack the lane to stop driving and penetration, leaving Indiana vulnerable a lot of times to 3-point shots because guys were slow to recover.
Well,
Tony Bennett's system that Archie picked up on.
okay. All right. Now that I know that. Well, I'll say this from a defensive standpoint, the ball is the first and most important piece when you start building a defense. And somehow I got to get players to have pride in guarding the ball and not beg for help. That's where it starts. And then you got to put a system in place where if there is a breakdown, you got to have help there, and then that helper's got to have help, and then the next man has got to have help. So it becomes a team defense. I think great defensive teams, they work as a unit and everybody's on a string. And then when that damn ball goes up, everybody's responsible for rebounding it. So you could go and do what you do the other way. There's a lot of pieces.
There you go. I went and cut him a little short. We'll hear more of that tomorrow, but I just thought that was just – he probably was going to really go on a rant or not a rant, but he probably would have thrown a little cold water on it a little more until Rick politely said it's Tony Bennett's system. Actually, it was Dick Bennett's his dad, I think. But and so he's like, yeah, I'm not going to – it seemed like he said, I'm not going to pound on him too much. But it's just kind of funny. It's sad, but it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen something like this. I'm going to have to look at someone at this level, a coach that's brought in at this level at a place of this significance, and it is just the biggest tail between the legs and still getting kicked in the rear end on the way out the door. It's nuts. Hey, we got to get out of here because we're long, but it's been fun. It goes too fast, man, when they're fun.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, and I look forward again to doing it again next week.
You never know. You could be here tomorrow. You never know, man. Things are funny. I want to thank everybody. Appreciate it. Of course, big thanks out to Matt Taylor and Chris Denari and to Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition. But most importantly to you guys, without you, there's nothing for us to do. Producer John as well. Go out and have yourselves a great day. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.